Panama stands out as one of the wettest countries on Earth. Its lush, tropical environment gets hammered by heavy rain more than 200 days out of the year. Yet, despite this immense precipitation, the Panama Canal, an engineering marvel that drives 40% of the country's entire economic activity, is literally running out of water. Instead of a sea-level trench filled with ocean water, the canal functions as a massive water elevator. Ships enter enclosed chambers that are pumped full of millions of gallons of fresh water, physically lifting the vessels up. Because this fresh water is ultimately flushed out to sea with every passing ship, global trade is entirely dependent on continuous, predictable local rainfall. For over a century, that local rainfall was incredibly consistent. Water was so abundant that the water elevator system functioned flawlessly without any concern for scarcity. This timeline tracks 140 years of regional rainfall. The last 21 years contain 8 of the 10 most severe storms in history and the 3 driest years ever recorded. The climate is swinging violently between extreme storms and devastating droughts. Canal operators cannot safely hoard that water during the megastorms either. If the dams overfill, the resulting pressure could lead to catastrophic structural failure. This leaves the Canal Authority trapped in a high-stakes daily balancing act, where miscalculating the weather by holding too much or too little water could cripple the entire system. The water shortage has forced a strict restriction on ship draft, the physical depth at which a vessel sits in the water. The relationship between depth and weight is absolute. Shallower water requires a shallower draft, which means a ship must be significantly lighter to pass through safely. Shipping companies are now forced to send vessels through the locks carrying far less cargo than their absolute maximum capacity. This creates a massive logistical bottleneck, leaving ships either partially empty or trapped in long queues waiting for clearance to transit. A lack of tropical rain in a single region is now physically throttling the movement of goods across the entire planet. The pressure on the canal extends far beyond shipping. The exact same watershed that feeds the locks also supplies the drinking water for half of Panama's population. In the mountainous community of Cerro Penang, just 40 minutes from the capital, 5,000 inhabitants have been without continuous access to drinking water since the 1990s. These residents spend their lives protecting the forested hillsides that ensure the canal's reservoir stays full. Because local infrastructure is lacking, they have to drive to neighboring towns to buy bottled water, while the rain from their hills drains away to lift massive container ships. It is a zero-sum dilemma, balancing a billion-dollar economic engine against the basic survival necessities of the people living in its shadow. With the old, stable climate gone forever, the Canal Authority can no longer rely on natural rainfall to power its operations. They are launching a $2 billion infrastructure plan to capture and store runoff in massive water-saving basins before it spills into the ocean during extreme storms. But storage alone is not a complete defense. During an unprecedented multi-year drought, even the largest reservoirs will eventually run dry. This has led to a radical secondary approach, exploring wastewater reuse and desalination to manufacture entirely new, weather-independent sources of freshwater. The ultimate goal of these megaprojects is to artificially decouple the canal's survival from the natural water cycle. The struggle in Panama is a localized preview of a much larger global crisis. If one of the wettest environments on Earth is being forced to spend billions engineering its way out of drought, every region is vulnerable. Infrastructure worldwide was designed for a climate that no longer exists, leaving global trade routes exposed to extreme weather whiplash. Securing our foundational economic routes against these shifts has become an immediate requirement for the global economy.